Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Metamorphosis of Trust, fortifying confidence in the digital sphere. My name's Andrew Cmoluch. I am the product manager at Hyland Software.
Hey everybody, my name is Greg Cieslik. I'm the product owner of Hyland Credentials at Hyland Software, as well as our integrations with Salesforce.
Really, our focus today is where we can take blockchain offerings in the aspects of digital trust. So I'd like to kick off with this one. I can't take full ownership of the quote, but really looking at digital trust and trust in general as being connected to specific individuals. So our focus is not only on organizations, but also on the actual end user at the end of the day. Because trust really is connected to each individual. It's really connected to how they think, who they are as an individual. And it really, this concept comes up from the idea of evolving content. You think of today, you have pictures there's deep fakes with artificial intelligence. I could take a 3-second recording of anybody sitting here and I could recreate an entire conversation. Use that to then, call up your bank and impersonate yourself. That's where technology is going, and even videos at this point, being able to, once again, use deepfake technology to impersonate individuals. So the need for digital trust is growing stronger and stronger by the day to be able to verify it. You see it in applications such as the White House just this spring decided to work with Digital Bazaar I don't know if it's actually been rolled out yet, but they have plans to roll out where anything that comes out of the White House actually goes through a blockchain process to make sure that anyone can verify, hey, this was actually created by someone in the White House. So, that's just one example, but Greg and I will go through some other things as well. But as I said, you start to see it more and more as technology grows. So, artificial intelligence is the buzzword, but there's a lot of conversation around how do we do ethical artificial intelligence? What can we do to make sure that what those large language models are actually, dealing with, that it's actually learning from, we're making sure that isn't, coming from sources that they should actually be coming from, those type of things. You see some of the other headlines that are there in regards to deepfake technology and how cybercrime is exploding around it. I think the best one is in the upper right corner there in terms of, $25 million needing to be paid out after a video with a deepfake calling as a chief financial officer came out. There's more and more of this type of stuff, and that type of technology is accessible not only to, people like myself, but also to anybody who's sitting here, anybody who came to this conference. It's, accessible to anybody out there. So. And that's really, another talking point that was brought up. And, yesterday, I know there's a panel that discussed it. We don't see blockchain as the perfect, complement to artificial intelligence, but it's something that it's a tool. And, that's some of the stuff that we're looking into at Hyland is how can we not only incorporate what we're doing into verifiable credentials and decentralized identity, but even looking at blockchain tethered AI, making sure that, as we move forward, and especially with our customer base, working with the Adobes of the world, organizations like that we can actually say, these are digital assets that somebody, actually owns, and that if you're going to use them in large language models, you're paying out those royalties, or you have that understanding from that individual that you can actually use their content. So host of different articles, as you can see from here, and discussions that come up. I know we had dinner last night with some individuals from Deloitte and Microsoft, and had conversations with IBM. It's the same type of things that are going around the industry in general. So, and really, what is our response at Hyland to these types of things that we're seeing out there? And that's where I'll pass it over to Greg to talk a little bit about our response, which is Hyland Experience Credentials.
Clicker here. So our offering at Hyland, which we call Hyland Experience Credentials, is built on something that we call our Hyland Experience Platform. And this platform allows a lot of additional tools for our business customers to do things like process automation, artificial intelligence, as Andrew said. But our Verifiable Credentials offering is essentially an API-based product that can integrate with all of these other offerings. But since it's API-based, you don't have to be using Hyland's experience platform to take advantage of our credentialing product. So this product allows the automation of digital records, and these digital credentials are W3C Verifiable Credentials standard. So they follow that open standard by the World Wide Web Consortium. As an API product, we can meet our customers where we're at. So using any of those process automation tools, or even things like Salesforce, where the end users are, they can easily send the data to Hyland Experience Credentials to manage the creation of it and anchor it into the blockchain with simple API calls. So there's very minimal interface or user training. However, we do have a very robust template designer, so the ability to create that visual layer for the credentials. There's various ways that we're doing it to also mimic paper. So various paper sizes, whether they're a standard A4 or legal size documents, these can be created in ways that are shareable on the web, but also printed out. And the nice thing is these credentials are instantly verifiable anywhere using the blockcerts.org website. So if you don't know much about the concept of verifiable credentials, starting on the left, we have an issuer. So an issuer could be any organization that signs up, a government agency, a university, and they provide to us their URL, their vanity URL, and we build an issuer profile for them. Based on the use case that they may have, for example, a diploma, on behalf of those recipients, they can send that recipient data through our APIs to create that credential. And we then deliver that credential back to the issuer, who then is able to distribute it to that recipient. So the issuer is the owner of that credential as well as the recipient. We don't store these credentials in our system long term, in fact, 30 days, and we actually destroy them. So the ownership remains with both the issuer and the bearer of that credential. At that point, they can take those credentials and they can provide it to a verification organization or someone who may want to. So if it's your employer and you want to prove that you graduated from a specific university, you could provide that verifiable credential with that overlay of their degree, and that can be verified on blockcerts.org. If you're not familiar with blockcerts.org, that's an open source website originally started by MIT through the Learning Machine Company, who Hyland acquired around 2020, I believe. And Hyland now maintains that project. So using that website, anyone can do that verification to prove that those credentials are in fact issued by that issuer and still valid. With other features like expiration dates and things like revocations, that issuer does hold a little bit more control. So if we're thinking about a certification from a government agency, maybe a contractor in a county, maybe that license must be renewed every year. An expiration date can be applied, and if you try to verify that credential, it'll come up as expired, and you know that, hey, maybe I need to find a new roofer for this project. Revocation is another thing as well, too. So if somebody were to commit fraud, that issuer does have the power to revoke that credential. And again, through that verification process, that will be evident to any verifier who wants to take a look at it. And for our customers as well, the issuers, we provide a private API so they can verify any credentials that they're receiving. So rather than having to go to blockcerts.org or something similar, they can automate that verification process through their process automation tools using our APIs. So if you require, maybe you're onboarding new employees at your organization and you require a degree, for example, and you accept a verifiable credential, that verification process can be automated, reducing the amount of touch points that your employees have to do, thus increasing that efficiency. So these are just some examples. Andrew, maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about some of the use cases that you've seen out there.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, the big thing is there's a lot of concern around, hey, is this actually something we can do in the real world? Is this, blockchain can be, used for multiple different purposes. These are some of the examples of conversations that we're actually having right now and examples. So I'll just kind of touch base since we have some time to go through each one of those. But, Department of Transportation agencies. So, obviously a lot of us have heard of, the state of California doing their pilot and some other states around driver's licenses. That's going to continue to grow, and we need secure methods in which that, they're actually being issued and they're maintaining security at the same time. So the very underlying concept of verifiable credentials is what's being used in the state of California. And actually to that end,
Rare Evo 2025 tickets are on sale now. Save big. General admission passes are discounted to $250, and VIP passes are only $800. Join us August 7th through 9th, 2025 at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Hurry, only 30 days left to save. Visit rareevo.io and buy your tickets now.
Really going into state licensing and regulatory agencies, the state of California is, obviously one of the largest states. It's a leader in the concept of blockchain, and they have legislation that's been passed that requires that vital records, that individuals in the state that have a vital record issued by the state need to have it as a verifiable credential. Now, there's not a timeline in terms of when that needs to be implemented by, so there's a little bit of the Wild West of, hey, like, what do we do? Who do we work with? But there's a lot of innovation that's happening. We actually have been in conversations with them to work alongside other organizations to provide aspects of, how can we ingrain this technology further using public blockchains, using private blockchains, and really even focusing on hybrid versions where, there's a seamless discussion between two different chains. So obviously, there's some other states that are looking from a licensing and regulatory standpoint. You think of, hey, I'm a plumber in the state of Nevada. I need to be licensed in the state to actually do that. Hey, it'd be great that I can actually take a verifiable credential, go to whoever hired me, as a small business owner, and I can provide that to them and they can verify instantaneously, hey, I haven't had a revoked license. I'm a legitimate business owner in the state of Nevada. The federal agency portion is a very interesting and taking off area. There's a lot of communication that we're having with federal agencies and even from a state perspective. And you just look at some of the things that are happening out there and some of the oversight that needs to happen and the question marks that are being raised. And I'll give you one example. You look at the FAA. Last year at this time, there's about 120 planes that were grounded because of fake airworthiness certificates. Now, those are issued by the FAA as a paper document. Wouldn't it be great if that was actually a verifiable credential that, oh, by the way, they don't need to, Delta, Southwest, United, they don't need to purchase anything from Hyland further. They can just, because of the open source, code and what we're working with, they can just take that FAA verifiable credential that says, hey, this plane is worthy to be in the air, and they can verify it instantaneously that, yes, this is legitimate from the Federal Aviation Agency. So that's another area. You start to look into financial services, mortgage-backed securities, being able to understand the transaction of when they're purchased from one bank and sold to another one, being able to see the oversight that's happening there between those transactions. The last big one is the judicial system. So I used to work for a couple of customers that really were involved in the judicial system and really with child protective services and, going out on ride-alongs to those type of situations, and they have an iPad with them and they need to take a picture of a home. It's really important to keep the integrity of that content. And when Greg and I are talking about this, we're not just talking about documents, we're talking about content in every aspect. So think of images, videos. it's becoming more important that when those images and videos are taken, that as it goes through a chain of custody, that everybody knows it hasn't been tampered with. When they go into a court system, when they're doing bind overs from district courts to appellate courts, the integrity of that content is maintained throughout that life cycle. So the healthcare area is another area we're getting into, but it's very much so obviously a tiptoe because there's so many regulatory aspects to it as well. So.
And Andrew, it reminds me of the poor man's copyright from a long time ago, when someone had mailed himself a document or a letter to prove that, this was my idea at first. With verifiable credentials, as you were saying, we can take any sort of a file type and package it into that credential, anchor it to that blockchain, and then that credential that we've returned becomes the source of truth, time-stamped, whatever file. Again, like you said, preventing forgery in the judicial system is a great example of that. And the applications there, are really limitless. So it's going to be interesting to explore that with our customers.
Yeah, and a lot of the conversation is what is the value that we can provide, and sometimes we get into this idea of, well, we're trying to prevent fraud, and that's seen in the negative light, and that's where we're trying to change this, change the message where it's we're providing digital trust to organizations and to individuals at the end of the day, and that's very much so as we roadmap out and look at new things that we plan to do with it. We're really keeping in mind the actual end user at the end of the day. So, one of the big things is the idea of selective disclosure. So I provide my verifiable credential to you that shows, hey, I can do business in the state of Nevada. There's certain things that you need to know, and there's other things that you don't. Think of it in the simplest sense, when it comes to driver's licenses, and I turned 21 in the US and I want to go buy a 6-pack. All you need to know is that I'm 21 and that this is my picture and this is my name. You really don't even need to know what day I was born on. You just need to verify that I'm 21. And all of these things that we're starting to see really have been probably for the past decade a big issue in terms of data integrity and really data ownership by an individual. These are tools that we can start to implement and be part of, as Greg said, meeting customers where they need this and how they want to explore it. We're not looking to go in and tell organizations that we can transform everything right at the blink of an eye. We want you to see the results, because the customers that we have been building this with have seen it and have realized that ROI as they've built out these solutions. So.
All right.
Yeah. So short and sweet to the point, but any questions that you want to maybe bring up?
We were prepared for questions from the audience, but this forum, if anybody has anything, we're willing to take them. Left a little time here.
Yeah. I think too, just one last thing, one of the big things is the regulatory environment. And obviously in the US, we're far behind in terms of, how we want to regulate these types of technologies, but it also gives organizations that are here like Cardano, like ourselves, Microsoft's, all of them, the opportunity to be really creative in the way that we go about things. Now, that doesn't mean that we shy away from NIST compliance, ISO type of security rules, but at the same time, it gives us the opportunity, because of the cryptographic hashing that goes on behind the scenes, to be part of the new wave of how we go about things. Obviously NIST, came out and we use SHA-3 cryptographic hashing. Well, that's one of the only cryptographic hashings that's been approved by NIST for cloud computing security. So, these are futuristic technologies that have, major impacts if they're implemented in the right way. So, if anything, we're super excited we got to talk to you all today, because, we really believe in this technology, and we think that it's not the end all be all, but it needs to be in the toolkits of organizations and individuals moving forward. So, but thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enjoying the event? Fire up that wallet and delegate your ADA to Rare Stake Pool. For over 3 years, Rare has been committed to providing high-quality staking services. And we're now Chang Hard Fork ready. Thank you for your support.